Not the ones you see standing up there on legislative this morning. Before we start, we got just a silent moment of meditation, please. Thank you. We miss you, Bob. Thank everyone for coming this morning. We're very fortunate to have with us this morning our state senator, Ed Jackson, our state representative, Rusty Grills, and our state representative from the South, Chris. We appreciate you gentlemen very much. And I had my eyes on everyone. We're doing some discussion this morning. We were thinking, everybody knows these gentlemen. I'd just like to say first, Representative First will be speaking first because he has another engagement about an hour and something away, so he'll be easing out a little bit before the session's over. But we thank you for coming. But State Representative Chris already represents the 82nd District, and State Senator Ed Jackson, the 25th District, and our State Representative Rusty Grills, the 77th. The main thing about all three of these guys, they're dedicated Christian family men. They're very dedicated in the work that they do. They're very conscientious about all the counties they represent. And we thank you for Dyer County. So at this point, we will start with you, Representative Hurt, and then we'll just keep it up to about 15 minutes or whatever time you need. And then we'll go with Ed, and then we'll go with Rusty.
Thank you. Okay. It's great to be here. Always great. I appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to come up here and speak. I will be brief, but I do want to get a plug in for where I'm going. All of you are familiar with Fort Pillow State Park. So the suspension bridge a while back became unsafe, and they had to do away with it. So the park has known out the suspension bridge was kind of its trademark for a long, long time. But we worked hard. They'd already started working on it before I was elected, but since then we were able to get the funding and get it done. So they completed the new suspension bridge at Fort Pillow, and today is the grand opening at 9 o'clock this morning. I thought it was 10, but they told me 9, so I was like, uh-oh, I gotta hook up. But anyway, I encourage a lot of classes go down there for visits. It's always an awesome thing, but getting that suspension bridge back for the next generation to be able to enjoy like we did. I know I did when I grew up going down there. It's really exciting, and we're excited about that. So that is where I'm going. We're going to get a plug in there, and hopefully all of you can make your way down there eventually and see the new suspension bridge at Fort Pillow. A few things I'll touch on. Obviously, we're in full stride up there. I'm going to touch on some education stuff and then a few other kind of high topics and let my colleagues dive in deeper on. I'm going to start with education. Obviously, I'm on 3 education committees and highly involved there. I did want to mention we actually kicked off our committees this week, and in one of our committees we had some presentations regarding some math and some lower level math, but they touched on the NAEP scores, which is what they call the Nation's Report Card. And the improvements that our schools have made is incredible. I think in some categories they went from 25th to 12th. Still a lot of work to be done, but great strides in our education system. And wanted to mention that and get a plug in because we're seeing good things being done there. We're hoping that the school safety grant will continue to be funded. We've got the State of the State coming up, and that's the big thing for these schools to make those safety improvements. We're hoping that money will continue to stay there. One initiative I've heard about that I hadn't heard as much since we've been there, but heard a little bit in the fall, but is an effort to try to combat the teacher shortage, and there is discussion of looking at paying student teachers when they're going through their education process to get certified. So getting a little pay for them to kind of keep them involved. Sometimes that's a roadblock for students. They're going to schools and doing their work. So there's some work being done there. And then finally, I just want to mention that we are hearing the push to expand the vouchers. We'll see where that goes, where that discussion goes. I know there's some budget concerns with that because of our money and kind of priorities there, but I did want to throw that out there that we're hearing that discussion. Another very controversial topic that I think we're going to hear more about, I don't know that it'll go very far this year, but is the medical marijuana discussion. And with Washington and President Trump rescheduling, making an effort there to reschedule, I know there's been some discussion. We have a medical cannabis commission that we've had for years now that turn in reports, but I think you're going to see a little more discussion, a little more pressure there to try to make some decisions and see what we want to do. If there's anything brought forward, I don't know that we'll see much brought forward this year. Probably so. There always is something, but that's a huge deal with President Trump rescheduling there. So, a lot of the polling, a lot of people, it's again, very controversial topic, but a lot of the polling is showing the general public favors it. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be a lot more polling, a little more dialed in as we get through these discussions. But I know the General Assembly is puts a lot of weight on what our medical cannabis commission, the reports they give us. So we'll see where that goes. I want to mention that. Another one, and I know my colleagues will talk about a little more is infrastructure. We're hoping to see some emphasis continue to be put on roads. We're behind on roads across the state. I know I get a lot of calls from my district. I know Rusty and Senator Jackson, we're constantly talking about roads. We're hoping that we'll continue to see a large investment there to try to catch up. I think the bottom line is we've got to reprioritize because we've got a lot of money that are going a lot of different directions. We've either got to reprioritize or we've got to create some other funding sources for that because we're behind in with inflation and the way things are going. We're not getting caught up as fast as we need to. We're going backwards. Let's see. Another big one that we kind of came out last week is immigration. I'm not going to dive into it. I'll let my colleagues kind of get into the details on it. But I do know Speaker Sexton and has been working directly with the White House on some immigration issues for Tennessee to kind of get out front and lead the nation on some initiatives there. And I think the bottom line of that is we're trying to protect legal immigration and the people that do it the right way. There's a lot of bills maybe that are going to be addressing that.
Maybe more than that.
Okay, so it's a lot of bills that you'll hear a lot about this spring regarding immigration and what it's costing the taxpayers of Tennessee. When I talk about illegal compared to legal, but I think the bottom line is we're trying to protect the taxpayers of Tennessee and protect the legal process to get into our country. So I think that's another one kind of off the beaten path that I have a bill because of some initiatives I've been looking into and some research. It's a little bit different, but I think you're going to see in the next couple of years it be extremely large and extremely important. It's stem cell treatment. Used to, when you heard about stem cell treatment, it was kind of going to Mexico, going out of the country, things like that. It's not FDA approved, but there are a lot more providers providing stem cell treatments because it's more of a natural repair to your body. I filed a bill to address a few things. I found out there's 2 other bills out there, so there's 3 total. But the big thing to me is Utah has passed something, Texas and Florida, and I mirrored Florida's legislation. One of the big things there is we want to put guardrails on it. I think it's you hear all about pain management, pain, and the medicine that we're giving folks, and their options are limited in a lot of cases. And I think you're going to see stem cells in the next 3 to 5 years really, really blow up. So we want to get in there and get out front and put some guardrails. We don't want to limit patients' opportunities, but we do want to put some guardrails. And the big thing to me is early on in stem cell research, you heard about it coming from fetuses. We want to make sure they're sourced from umbilical cords. So that's another big step that I think we need to get out front and make sure they're sourced from the right place. And then obviously as the providers get to using them, we kind of put the guardrails on there where providers and patients feel safe to use that method, and I think it's going to be big. So that's really all I got. And the last thing I want to say is on the weather, I think we all know what's coming. Everybody stay safe. Check on your neighbors and the elderly, and let's if you have pets, obviously bring them inside. But be safe out there. Hopefully we'll get snow and not the ice. Hopefully I hate it for whoever gets the ice, but I hope it's not us. But anyway, everybody stay safe. Again, it's great to be here and great to see everybody. And again, reach out. I know you've got some great senator and representative, but if you ever need anything, also my door is always open to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, and always glad to have you here. It means a lot. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here, and I always look forward to this. And thank you, Slater, for setting this up. And Bubba, we do miss Bob, but you are a great guy too. I've known you ever since I ever started, but it's always great being here and seeing a lot of good friends. There are quite a few things that are going on up there. We just started like a little over a week ago, actually, and they're already talking about when we're going to close. So it's going to be a rushed up session, but there's a lot of things that we are going to be discussing. You all know over the years years, I've been talking about corrections. I've been the chairman of corrections for so many years. There are several things that we're trying to address because of corrections right now. It's a lot of issues. I know you've heard about the times over in Trousdale, over in Middle Tennessee, that had riots over there with inmates. And there's a lot of things going on with the gangs actually operating just operating out of the prisons and getting contraband out of the prisons, cell phones and drugs, and just a lot of other things. So we're addressing that. There's one thing that we want to try to do with the correctional officers is to put a body cam on them, such as law enforcement has, so they can have a record of what's going on. A lot of times the gang members and the correctional officers do know who the gang members are, and they get threatened. And they know, the gang members know who you are, where you live, and who your family is, and they can operate outside of the correctional facility with the cell phones that are brought in. So there's a lot of issues there. So we're going to put body cams on. It's a pilot program over in Charleston where they're going to put body cams on the inmates, and on the correctional officers, and try to keep a little more control of what's going on and have a record of it. That will help. Also, I'm working with Congressman David Pestoff. This is an FCC issue, a federal issue, where these cell phones that are being smuggled into the correctional facilities, that's how they're running their operations to communicate to the outside, is to being able to bring contraband in. So what we're going to do, what Congressman Pestoff is working with Senator Cotton out of Arkansas also, is to jam the signal of their technology, to jam the signal of cell phones inside the facility. And that would just make them useless. Cell phones would not be worth anything. They couldn't communicate anymore like they are currently. So that's going to be a pilot program over in the Trousdale facility, correctional facility over in Middle Tennessee. See how it's working. It's working in other states, in Arkansas, a couple other states around us that it's being successful. So we're going to be using that hopefully here in Tennessee as well. Drones, there's another way that up here in Northwest, drones is a big deal. They're flying things in and dropping it into the prison yard, and the inmates know when it's coming in because they've got their cell phones, they're talking to it, so it's just, so they're bringing contraband and drugs and different things, and they're selling those inside the prison. Some of the inmates who are there that are addicted to certain types of drugs, they're still addicted when they're in there. They're going through counseling, but they still are addicted, and the drugs are being dropped in there by drones. So there's technology now too that we can jam the signal of those drones and make them useless. They just fall out of the sky. So that's another thing that they're working on with corrections. Let's see. I am also very involved with veterans. The we had just, we have a Veterans Caucus in the legislature where the Senate and the House, we joined together. Anybody who's veterans or interested in the veterans, we're trying to take care of them. 1% of the veterans in the military, depending, there's 1% of the population, veterans are taking care of the rest of us. So we are really old veterans. So many are coming back from assignments with PTSD from limbs, crippling injuries, and we're looking into and trying to one of those that are 100% disabled to eliminate property taxes from them from their houses. There's one case I know of that a veteran has lost both legs, and he's not able to pay the property taxes. He's about maybe losing his house. So we're addressing that. Those are things that we're addressing for the veterans. Let's see. One thing I like to talk about too, and some of the things we've done over the last several years. Tennessee is, each one of us here pays less in taxes than any other state in the country per person. We've had 56 tax cuts since 2011. The whole income tax, food tax reduction, death tax, gift tax, franchise taxes, privilege taxes, and sales tax holidays. So we have cut $5,806,000,000 worth of taxes over the last 10 years. So we are in a lower tax state, and that's one reason why so many people are moving into the state of Tennessee, which is a great state to live in, and it's lower taxes. So that's something that we are that we're very, very proud of. I've got I am let's see, I'm sorry, my notes are, I've had to, I just got back in last night from Nashville, and my notes are a little jumbled here, but I'm involved with just a lot of different committees and commissions. The Lieutenant Governor appointed me to be chairman of the Government Operations Committee. And what Government Operations Committee is, we're the oversight of all the departments, the boards, commissions of state government. And they come before our committee to make sure they're running efficiently and spending our money wisely. And so that's the committee that I have been appointed as the chairman of. And it's a very important committee to make sure that our state is running efficiently. I guess that there'll be a couple other things, but I'm going to hand it over to Rusty and let him do his.
Sure. Well, good morning. It is good to see everyone. Like Senator Jackson got home last night. I actually had a committee meeting after session yesterday that lasted till, I got home after dark. Talking about solid waste. How in the world can you spend 4 or 5 hours talking about solid waste? But we can do it. And I know I talked about that here, and Mayor Holden and I talked about that. With all the people moving to Tennessee, we've got a problem on our hands in regards to how we handle the solid waste, and do we compost it, do we landfill it, do we incinerate it? How do we move forward in the most environmentally friendly way, but yet the most economic way? So that's one of those things we're trying to move forward and make sure that we have Tennessee set up for success over the next 20, 25, 30 years, because those are not pretty topics, I can just promise you. It's a lot easier to talk about spending money than it is talking about solid waste. But right off the bat, I want to talk about the bypass out here. I know we've talked about that many, many times. Mayor Holden probably got 756 phone calls since Christmas about this bypass. But the state they had a lady back in the first part of December, and they're going to start down here at the Bradley, down here, I'm going to call the railroad track. I'm sorry, McDowell. And they're going to start there, and they're going to come all the way around, by us, over past the Presbyterian Church, to Casey's, hang a left, and go up toward Grecian. They're going to do the whole project. Now, just so you guys know, last year there was one section of that was intended to be done. My good friend and I worked our rear ends off. Shy of getting the governor in a headlock and telling him he had to do it in order to get out. We did everything we could to get the whole thing done, and they worked with us, and we got the whole project done rather than just one of the 3. Because originally it was going to be one of the 3 projects. It was actually 3 projects, but they were only going to do one of them. So I believe we're going to start sometime the end of April, May, and start replacing all of that. So, and it's not just take the top coat off and fix it. It's going to be a mill and field, if you will. Now, John Ford's not here to talk about it. You can tell us it's going to be perfect, right?
Yeah, they're gonna mill off and put back a 2-inch layer and then 1 1/4 or 3 1/4 inches, which they're not doing that very much anymore because they don't have enough money. So that it'll be thicker and better.
Yeah. And it lasts what, 15 years, 20?
That just depends. When you mill it off, they've waited so long, it destroys the structural integrity underneath. So it's kind of a guessing game a little bit, but it should last. Yeah, that's what they're counting.
Well, just so you guys know, we're on record now. The contract has been let and it's been signed. Looking forward to seeing that happen. Also, another road, Highway 210, south of Dyersburg, and the going towards Forest Well, but that's gonna be later on this spring in a month or so. So that's another job that's another road here in the county that needs to be taken care of. Another thing that's concerning, is the ag economy. The last 3 years, things have been trending downward. This last year, we lost about 430 million. Year before that, it was significantly more than that, but downward. And that's tough for an area that's number one industry is ag, in a state that's number one industry is ag. The Department of Ag understands that. There's definitely all hands on deck approach to try to figure out how to reach or strengthen markets. I know Stephen here with Tennessee Soybean Association, they're concerned about it. They're trying to figure out ways that they can invest to make sure that new technology, new opportunities, and new markets are open, along with the Department of Ag and here in the state of Tennessee. We've got a really good group to work with, but at the same time, we've got to have some federal help as well to get those markets open over all across the world. Just a few bills that obviously we're talking about the roads there. There's always a shortage of road funding. We continue to run out of money before the jobs are completed. Last year, we moved about $80 million of tire sales tax over to the maintenance fund. We're continuing to look at other ways and new possibilities. David Hawk has always wanted to move some of the dollars from I believe it's the vehicle sales tax over into the road fund. That is something that's probably coming up again this year. And if anybody else has another idea, please email one of us or call us, let us know. But there's got to be a new source of revenue going into that fund if we're going to be able to keep up with the maintenance that we need, especially in the inflationary age that we're in now. So it's very important that we've got enough funding for maintenance plus enough funding to build new roads and new intersections and things like that. So that's very concerning, and making sure that we have the adequate funding going forward. Big deal. There's going to be a big push to remove regulations and give what the goal is to give the governor's office the ability to remove regulations that they put on things. And then instead of having to take them through the legislative process to kind of cut some regulations and keep this thing moving a little faster. Not exactly sure where that bill is going to be sitting right now. Representative Clark Boyd over in Lebanon is carrying that. He's working with several different groups. There's a lot of optimism there, but to make our lives easier and not have less bureaucratic hoops to jump through in our businesses and our daily lives would be a good thing to get regulations out of the way, make prices come down, and opportunities rise. The immigration thing was brought up a few minutes ago, Chris. I cannot believe the amount of crimes that are committed in the state by illegals. Since October to December last year, we had, I think it was 3,300 something crimes that were committed. 447 violent crimes, 11 murders, 533 traffic infractions, 549 driving without license, 654 DUIs, 154 domestics, aggravated assaults of 80, like I said, 11 murders. That is a problem, and we as a state recognize that. It's costing illegal immigration, if you want to call it that, is costing our state $971 million annually. That's a lot of money that we could be using for what I was talking about a while ago, whether it's roads or schools or any other infrastructure need. There's a big push across the state that to see some of these efforts to stop this. We're talking about if you're not here legally, you can't get a business license. If you'd like to be an RN, those type of license. You can't no CDL. If you're not here legally, you can't get a CDL in Tennessee. And if you're an illegal and you're driving to our state with a CDL, that you're illegal, you're going to be arrested. There's also the E-Verify for all public employees before someone gets hired at state or local level. The E-Verify system, there's going to be legislation past that. Proof of lawful status to receive any public benefit in the state. Over and over again, we see the services that we render being abused. We were at an in-care hearing this week, and I was blown away that we had 8,051 claims by refugees, just refugees in Tennessee for in-care. That's a lot of money that's been spent on people that's just refugees. They have some type of lawful status. There's no telling the amount of dollars that's spent, but we don't know those. We can't quantify those yet. Lots of reporting bills in that regard as far as immigration, things. And I don't know where these fast, brought some of the ag stuff on go. I'm working with the Department of Ag right now to create a bill, a labeling bill, if you will, or a certification bill that would guarantee that if you buy beef, pork, lamb, or poultry, that it was raised in Tennessee and give a certification process, you can be assured that this was a Tennessee raised animal. And the Department of Ag likes the idea, I like the idea, and not only that, if you're a smaller producer, you can probably get a premium for that. And if this thing would work well, we could really do a good job of maybe give our producers opportunity to get into some of the smaller grocery stores, maybe even the larger, if it would take off and do well. But if we could do something to help create a new market or strengthen the market that already exists. But not only that, there's been a huge concern for people that we're losing, that we're getting our protein from overseas. I know like President Trump said something about bringing Argentina beef in here and really hit the beef market, when she had the mouth shut on that. That didn't help us any as far as the farm community. But that's one of the things that we can do as a state to guarantee that when you buy something, you don't mind paying you might have to pay a few dollars more, a few cents more, but if you know where it's coming from, it's making worth it to you. And I'm one of those guys that kind of agree with that. There's a property tax bill for you guys in the local economy. I don't know where I am on it, just to be completely honest with you. Our good friend Chris Dyer is carrying it. He wants to eliminate property tax from all property tax and replace it with a sales tax. I don't understand how that's going to work, but he thinks he does. And he's got the answer for the questions that are asked. I'm concerned about what control you guys would have at the local level for bonds, and if you want to build something, how do you guarantee that you can go out and get the money? And if a company leaves and you lose a significant, let's just say what happened in Union City several years ago, they lost Goodyear one night. If that would have happened to another county, when they have a shortage of funding, how do you offset that? And how do you guarantee that bond rating is what really matters to me? So I don't know if that's a good idea or bad idea, but it's a conversation worth having. I think it's one of those things that's probably just going to be a conversation right now, or maybe a conversation started. But I'm sure you'll be hearing, especially you guys at the local level, you'll be hearing some conversation in the different meetings that y'all have. This coming November, there's going to be 3 amendments on the ballot. One is about the state property tax, within our Constitution, that we'll never have a state property tax. One is a no bail. If you commit a capital crime, there'll be no bail. And what is the third one? I forgot. I had that Rick Perry moment there, he was getting rid of all those governmental agencies, and he forgot the last one. But anyhow, I guess when we get to the ballot, you'll see the third one. With that, Senator Jackson, do you have anything else you want to add?
There are a couple of things that I've been to mention. One, I know you've been hearing about the Tennessee Highway Patrol across the state are issuing citations for people who are supposedly driving impaired, drunk driving or whatever, and they end up not being. Well, I met with Colonel Perry yesterday, the day before yesterday, and he was going to the committee to testify about this. And he said that a lot of this are these synthetic drugs that are on the market that are being sold in some of these CBD stores. And one of them is called Kratom. You may have heard of Kratom, and it's something that's a very addictive drug, and there's not a test. I talked to TBI, there's not a test for that. It's not like you have a breathalyzer test or test for alcohol. But for this Kratom, and a lot of people are on that, and they're driving impaired. And so that's probably part of what is going on there, and he's trying to explain that, but that's, Rusty and I were just talking about that a little while ago, but there's some legislation that's being filed actually outlaw Kratom that's being sold in the CBD stores and convenience stores. Juveniles are getting a hold of this as well. And it's a very addictive, very addictive. So, kratom is actually a leaf that's grown in Southeast Asia, and it is being, put in pill form, other forms, and it's something that we really have to address in Tennessee to make sure that we do need to get rid of. That's one product we do need to eliminate off the shelves, and that's just being sold without any oversight. So TBI is not oversight. Law enforcement is pretty much the only one, but they don't have tests for it. And the ABC, Alcohol Beverage Commission, that's something that they're not really overseeing. So we're trying to address that issue. Another one is the juvenile crime is up. And you hear a lot about the juveniles that are committing serious crimes. I will give you an example. Down in Tipton County in Covington, there was a juvenile, 16-year-old, had a handgun and had committed a crime. Law enforcement caught him, but they didn't have a place to put him because you can't put a juvenile in the same jails as you do or hold them pre-adjudicated like you can an adult. So there's no place to put them. So what they had to do there, there's very, very little bed space for those pre-adjudicated juveniles. There are 2 beds here in Dyersburg, there are 11 beds in Jackson. Outside of Shelby County, that's it. There's no other place. So in Tipton County, what they had to do was to get 2 sheriff's deputies, put this juvenile into a hotel room there in Covington until they could get the juvenile to go through the juvenile courts. Sometimes that takes weeks. And so we are in the process of getting it approved and get the state to help with building a pre-adjudicated juvenile detention center in Madison County that would serve all the counties, rural counties in West Tennessee, where it would be about a 48 or 50 bed facility that would house the juvenile properly the way they're supposed to be housed and away from the adult criminals that are being held in jails. So that's something that we're working on that's really needed. So that would serve Dyer County, all the other counties all around West Tennessee.
I don't know if y'all are interested in what's going on in Memphis, but Mayor Paul Young, he came up to Dyersburg. I don't know if we go 6 weeks ago, and we had a chat out here at Chick-fil-A. It's a good place to meet and go after if you don't want to see anybody, because everybody goes through there. You want to have a private meeting, go to Chick-fil-A. We talked about some of the things and some of the efforts they put forth down there, and just this data just blows me away. The task force has reported 4,081 arrests. This is as of December 15th. 4,081 arrests, including 400 known gang members and 15 homicide suspects. They have seized 629 illegal firearms, located 123 missing children. That is crazy. And guys, this will break your heart. You know where those children, they weren't just runaways. Those trafficking rings are serious, and there's been a huge effort down there. But the homicide in Memphis is down 39%, sexual assault down 43%, robberies down 59%, and car thefts are down 69%. As I was talking to this week, they were up in DC, and they could not believe the difference in DC compared to 6 or 8 months ago. Memphis, maybe, I hope that Memphis has that same, reputation here in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Well, everybody talks about Memphis, it's a good place to be, it's safe, you can do anything you want. So I'm hoping there's a good effort. I commend Larry Young down there, Larry Paul Young. He's taking hits from the left, and he's taking hits from the right. He's trying to do what he feels is best. So, may not agree with him on everything, but at least he's working with everybody he possibly work with. And also, there's a big push for this AI generation we're walking into. And whoever has the power, whoever has the water, is where they're going to land. That gives us an opportunity because we've got plenty of water. That gives us an opportunity to really capitalize on some stuff or some opportunities over the next 5 to 10 years. Let's just be ready to capitalize on it when that door opens. They're saying that 70%, I've heard this number, 70% of the jobs that we'll see over the next 10 years have not yet been created. 70% of the people in the workforce are in jobs that have not been created over the next 10 years. I don't know how they quantify that number, but that's just a forecast. But whatever AI said, but it is crazy how smart AI is. I will say that. It was scary how smart it is. I thought those were some neat tidbits of information.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us this morning. Very evident how hard these gentlemen work for us on the Hill. What we'll do now is take just a few moments. If you've got any questions you'd like to address to each other. John?
Yes. Senator.
Yes, sir.
I had an eye-opening conversation with a citizen in my district yesterday when he talked about his younger brother who had gotten addicted to drugs at age 13, and he spent most of that whole life in our prison. And the thing that struck me was that his brother has told him that every prison in America inside is run by Mexican cartels. Would that be the drug gang that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. Well, you said Mexican cartels. It's not just the cartels. It's the Bloods, the Crips that are organized in the correctional facilities. There may be Mexican cartels in other, like in Texas or other, but I've not seen hearing that about Mexican cartels in Tennessee, but I'm sure there's probably some of that in this state as well. But this is in Tennessee, in the 13 correctional facilities, and I've been to every one of them. And it's mostly the Bloods, the Crips, and just that organized, those organized groups that are being arrested. They're in there, they form and communicate with their cell phones and other ways with the drones and getting contraband and just running operations from inside the prison. They're also, like I said, they know who they get. Somebody who is addicted to drugs is in prison for maybe a crime they committed, and they realize they're addicted to drugs, so they can say, well, we can get you some drugs, but we need you to pay us. So what happens there is the person who needs some money to pay them for it, so he can still continue his habit while he's in the correctional facility. The parents or the relatives will be sending money to a bank account outside of the prison, to a designated bank account, and to keep so they can get their drugs in there. So that's going on. That's everywhere. I hear that all the time, that this is happening to families, and they call and say, we're having to put thousands of dollars into an account for prison to send to our prison, because they're going to beat them up, they're going to kill them, they're going to do what they threaten. But actually what's happening is most of the time they're supporting their habit, and they don't tell their loved ones that that's what's happening. But it's a big issue, but it's mostly the gangs, the local gang members that are being arrested that are in the correctional facilities.
Any other questions? Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you all? As a naturalized immigrant and a woman of color, and I have deep concerns regarding the ICE enforcement and being pulled over with men that are behind masks that are supposed to be law enforcement. My question, sir, is how are you all setting up processes to safeguard American citizens? My second question is related to what I understand is a detention facility in Mason, Tennessee. I mean, who actually is going into these detention facilities? Are they receiving medical care? That would be a question that also concerns me. I just want answers. I have fears and just looking for some answers.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with the Mason. I'm not familiar with the detention center in Mason. I know that there's a prison there, but I don't know anything as far as the ICE facility detention center down there. You know anything about that?
Yeah, that was a federal facility in Mason, and it was not used anymore, I think, for a while. And there's been a lot of discussion about making it a facility. I talked to the U.S. Marshal, Tyrese Miller, who lives in Jackson, a friend of mine, and I think they are utilizing the Mason facility some for the people that I think that are being arrested in Memphis, just because of lack of space at what they call 201 Poplar. That's the big jail down in Memphis. It is just bursting at the seams, and they're running out of space to put some of these that they're arresting. I didn't hear all of your question, but is that the facility you're talking about?
Yes, it is. But I think my question relates to ICE enforcement and how are American citizens, how are we going to be protected? That's my concern. I do understand when folks are pulled over, they're going to be asked to produce their document, but what happens if I'm out riding and all I have is my driver's license? And I'm asked, for example, like my passport. I mean, those are questions I think many naturalized immigrants have. And
Now, here's my libertarian hat coming off, or putting up. I don't believe that you should be pulled over unless you committed a crime. I don't believe that you should have to produce papers or any kind of identification that you committed a crime. If you're walking down the street, that's just a right that you have. I don't know what's going on in other places. I hope and pray that's not going on in Tennessee by any of our law enforcement. If it is, I'm not aware of anything like that. I mean, there may be places, I've never heard of an instance in Tennessee where that's taking place. But I've seen.
And all I ask is that something that's kept in mind as the legislature goes through all these laws, because we need to protect all our citizens, and we all have those human rights. So,
100%.
I just had to voice that as a concerned citizen. I'm sure y'all can understand that. And
one of the most important jobs we have, we can talk about funding, and we can talk about all of these other different ancillary issues, but our fundamental reason for government is to protect liberties and to protect rights. And once we get those out of balance and we try to get involved in these other lanes, it's very dangerous. So the ultimate goal is to make sure that everyone's freedom is protected, and we use government to do that. You know, it's pretty much life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and we're going down past that. It's kind of like, we got to create government to help do that, even though we don't want to. That's what in my mind, I can see that. I feel like that's what you're saying. Even though government may be imperfect, it's still important that we have a government there doing things the right way. And our job, and I hope that everyone in the legislature realizes that ultimately we have to protect individual rights and liberties. And getting the right balance there is sometimes.
I agree with you 100%, making sure those checks and balances are in place to protect our citizens as well as the Constitution. And I really appreciate you gentlemen being open to me asking that question. If y'all don't mind, we better get to school.
Did you write her a note, Ms. Gill?
Yes, sir, I will.
I just had to ask.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I'd like to address the issue that you brought up about ICE agents, Border Patrol agents wearing masks. I started with the United States Border Patrol in a 30-year federal law enforcement career. I know for a fact, from personal experience, the reason that some of us cover our faces because our families have been threatened. When it comes to our families, we're no different than anybody else, okay? That's the reason. It's not to hide us behind the mask, it's to protect our families. Every one of us is out there, we have a badge on and a name tag, so they can identify us,
Well, that's reassuring to know that.
okay?
And that's why these discussions are so important.
Exactly. So, I mean, when you brought that up, I was thinking about that earlier, and then when you brought it up, I said, I have to say something.
Thank you. I just want to make one statement too, that I know that the Dyersburg City and county have gotten some grants, and I know Mayor Holden is, I talked to him not long ago about a nice grant that you're getting. So y'all are getting some grants you're applying for, and anytime you apply for grants through the city or county school system or whatever, it'd be good for us to know we can maybe do some follow-up. But anyway, congratulations on some grants that you've got recently that are really going to be beneficial to Dyersburg, County.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. What we'll do at this point, we'll hold up on our questions. Yes,
I'm
Judge.
sorry. First of all, I just want to say y'all are very good advocates for our area for transportation projects. I know a lot of that, there's a lot of politics, a lot of everything, but there's a couple of things that just bug me that I just want to ask. And I'm not gonna, I know it's a volatile subject, but one is the vouchers. And I guess, do we have a plan? In other words, if you get into the voucher program and you're in the first grade, I guess there's a presumption that, you know, you're gonna get a voucher till you turn 18 or whatever, until you graduate. So is the plan to keep adding $150 to $200 million to the voucher program every year? Because if you don't, you're gonna inevitably either cut it off and not have anybody else new getting in the program, or you're gonna have to kick people out when they get in the 5th grade or 4th grade. Or I don't think there's enough money in the world to fund that. And if you do the math, it's gonna be $3 or $4 billion in 15 years. And I mean, I know the majority of the people in this room and in this county and in West Tennessee don't like the vouchers. I know y'all have polling that says otherwise, but I don't, you know, you can get anything on a poll. But I just want to express that from our area, and I know the governor's got his foot on y'all's necks and on everybody's necks, and I appreciate that position. So sometimes you have to do what you have to do, but I'm just telling you, we'd be remiss if we didn't say we don't like the voucher program. We don't, and let me just say, I got 8 grandkids and they're all in private school. I've got a daughter that teaches in a private school and a Christian school, and I understand all that, but it's just not right. It's okay if you're in a failing school, we need to craft the program the way it was originally intended for those people, that they can get some help or get some relief. But to just open it up for anybody, regardless of income, we're not gonna keep up with that because I don't blame you, I wouldn't want to keep up with it either, because it's gonna look really bad if we release all that information. But we've gotta restructure it differently than just letting anybody that already has their kids in private school that had no intention of going to the public school. And so that's one concern I have, but the other is you said you were gonna hold the school systems harmless, but how does that work going forward if we've got, say, 20 kids in Dyer County that were gonna go into the public school system, but yet they chose to go to the private school system because they can get vouchers, and we don't really have any way to know that or track that or whatever. Maybe y'all got a system for that, I don't know, but I don't know how you hold the school systems harmless. And I understand you can backfill those positions anyway with just an increase in population, which to me doesn't seem to be holding them harmless. But I'm just saying, I do government work, so I'm a little nervous, I'll be honest, talking about it out loud, because I know the governor's office and them, they don't appreciate hearing some of that, but you can ask for a show of hands if you want, but I'll be shocked if the vast majority of the people in this room are for, not against vouchers. I think they are. That's just one point. The other point I have, and then I'll shut up, but, I wish the governor's office or somebody would come up with a better explanation or something. It bothers me that the feds, and I understand the feds, there's only so much money to go around, but, you know, we've turned down this $84 million to feed the kids in the summer. And I don't, you know, and instead we're taking $4 million out of the state funds to feed, you know, a few thousand kids compared to a couple of 100,000 kids. I don't understand the math of that. It'd be different if $84 million would go unspent, or it would just, maybe they could give us a rebate or reduce our taxes, but it seems like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by not taking that money. I don't know. Do y'all have any explanation for what the governor's thinking on that?
I can't tell you what the governor's thinking on a lot of, not just that, but several other issues. I don't know what even happened. I believe, to be completely honest with you, Mr. John, I believe that $84 million, I believe they missed the filing deadline on that maybe 2 years ago. And the former commissioner Hatcher did not get that application turned in. And I don't know if they lost it, or to refile. But I do know what I'm semi-familiar with what you're talking about. Harold, is that your program that he's talking about?
The summer feeding program is funded by the state now. Yes.
But is that one that y'all administer?
It was federally funded.
Well, and y'all, anybody in here that doesn't know Carol Davis, he's the county teacher.
I don't need
He's been here for a couple of years. But, I don't know what the summer feeding program.
There's two forms of that. I have written several applications to boost that and bring that back. As many know, you know, I have increased the summer feeding program from 18 to 26 here in Dyer County. We feed over 1,000 kids, every day.
Where do those dollars come from there?
Those dollars come down from the federal to the state level and are dispersed, you know, through the counties, you know.
But I think what Mr. John is saying is the county did not, the state did not take those federal funds.
I understand, but what I'm saying is we've got a petition out, and then we did miss one of those, Mr. John, but there's another one that's still in legislation right now, and it's called the EBT Summer Feeding Program, along with, we're trying to get the normal feeding program back and the funding. And it's my understanding that some of it's there, and they're telling me to relax a little bit. I hope we can relax and we continue to hold on to that money.
Great. Great. Thank you, Mayor. And so you asked a question about the school choice effort. I'm trying to answer some of the questions. I think the contention of that is any kid that's in 12th grade that graduates comes off, and that scholarship is no longer needed for him, and then someone else will be able to apply and take advantage of that one. As it grows or as it goes forward, if you get a scholarship in the 2nd grade, I believe you're guaranteed for that scholarship for the next year and so on and so forth. As far as the growth aspect of it, I'm like, let's make sure it's going to work and accomplish what it's going to accomplish before it grows a whole lot personally. I think that's just the natural business sense of anything. If it's going to do well, it'll speak for itself. So growth, I don't know, that just needs to be managed. It just needs to be an open-ended.
I agree with that. So is there any way we can just freeze it for where it's already at, and not add another 20,000 people in?
Well, that'll take legislation. It's not going to grow 20,000 without legislation.
Well, no, but it didn't start 20,000 without legislation.
It started with 20,000 with legislation, but it's got a growth factor of maybe 5,000.
5,000 a year, which
But
is
it doesn't,
25%.
but it's going to grow more than that. I know that there were 40,000 apps last year applications. They wanted to, there's an effort from some who want to expand, the roles aren't there. But, I don't think they are.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay.
Then I wouldn't have brought it up, sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's good to bring it up. I will say, I don't mean to jump in there, but I do appreciate, I'll speak on behalf of Dyersburg City and Dyer County Schools. I do appreciate everyone's support in the room for our school system. I do appreciate y'all's support of our school systems as well. We're fortunate in this area to have very successful schools, and y'all are very supportive of our school systems, and I do appreciate that. The voucher program, if we could put in place some accountability processes to see that that's successful, because I think just to throw money out there and allow the people to apply for the voucher system, the public dollars out there with no accountability. We don't know how many students are out there, and we don't know if they're successful in those schools. So we've given those schools and those kids dollars with no accountability there. And we hold our public schools very accountable for those dollars. And we've allowed these other students to go to schools with no accountability processes in place. And so we're very proud of our schools, and we're very proud, I think Chris spoke to it earlier, the progress that we've made. But these other students, we don't know the progress that they've made. And we surely don't want these students to graduate and then, when they're 18, say what's happened to them, and then not be successful adults when they graduate.
You want to talk to he said we went from 25 to 12, 24 to 12, you want to talk about your school system and that?
I can't speak to that, the data in front of me, but we've made some great progress, and, our director of, curriculum and instructions here, Ms. Sealand, our high school principal, and we've made great progress in that, so, I think that's wonderful.
Well, I do want to say that I have 7 counties and I know Dyersburg City and Dyersburg County systems are some of the best in the state. I'm very proud of what y'all do here. You know, I've visited your school several times over the years with you, and I really appreciate that. I've learned a lot. I know that the governor has told me, he's told us that we're not going to not fund public education. And I know they have been. I will give you an example. My family members, my son, who had his 2 sons that live in Jackson, were in private schools. They moved them to the public school systems a couple of years ago, and in Jackson, and they're thriving at the school. They are. The system has come up. You know, the Madison County system was when I was there, and the system was really extremely good. And then it just took a nosedive over the years. And it's still recovering, but it's doing so much better. And the money that we are putting in, the state is putting into the system, these STEM schools, and with so many things that, programs that are being offered in the public system, I'm really proud of. And all my 4 grandchildren are in the public school system. And I want to make sure that the public schools are successful. And I support it. This voucher thing, I've had reservations about it, questions about it, but, it is what it is. It was really pushed hard, but, we will not forget our public school systems as far as if I have anything to do with it. So thank you for what you do.
And I also want to recognize too, Dr. Cook, Ms. Jones, Dr. Jones, and the efforts they put forth. You got College of the, what was the award? I can't remember off the top of my head. College of the Year?
College of the Year this year, and Dr. Jones was, Technical College of the Year last year.
Right, so, I mean, that's in Nerva, this is in Dyersburg, so we're very fortunate to have them. And not only that, they're putting in a aviation mechanic building in Nerva. And it's also, when you talk to somebody, they're coming by, what are they doing up at the vocational school in Nerva? They're putting a place in more airplanes up there. What's really cool is when they start landing on there. And the look on people's face that they're trying to figure out where they're gonna land there and there. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Rusty. It's very evident how hard these men work for us. Dyer County is a great place to live. It takes an effort from each one of us. But if you want to have other questions, these gentlemen will be here after the meeting. One of the things I just like to ask, while we're here, I always try to do this. Mayor Holden, do you have anything you'd like to bring up at this time?
Just appreciate support when I call these gentlemen to represent us, and obviously everybody's talked about the weather. We are as prepared as we can be. I talked to Robbie Richard as well, so we will do our very best to take care of this community and keep people safe. But just remember our guys and gals out there, the law enforcement officers that can't go home, that have to work, but just want everybody to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. County Mayor David.
I'd be just excited to say a few things, and I'd be honored. And I will try to talk fast and, keep this short, and I have to make sure. Thank you, Bob, I appreciate it.
Just have a little bit of time.
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna talk fast. I wanna touch on Rusty's waste. When I came into office, I immediately, which I'm an environmentalist, appreciate y'all staying and listening to me, but if you can't, Kim, I understand. I'll call you later. I love you, I appreciate you. Appreciate everything you do. But as an environmentalist, I also looked up the cost. The cost of waste was increasing at 11% cost to Dyer County. So I immediately got with, my, Dale Dozer, my, new building and zoning director, and we integrated into Keep America Beautiful, Keep Tennessee Beautiful, and now we have our own organization, which is Keep Dyer County Beautiful. And with that being said, the state has helped us come in, with additional funds for our litter grant. They have pickup programs. We have over 80 volunteers at those pickup programs. We've been able to put a vehicle out with prisoners out picking up trash every day. Our waste to Dyer County has decreased now to 5%. So that's been a big help. It's been a cleaner, better environment. But our real goal, and we're working on it right now, is recycling. We're gonna cut costs on waste that's in recycling, and that's where we're headed. All right, the road projects, thank those guys for everything they do, but all of us, Mayor Holden has worked so hard. We continuously write applications and revise applications for road projects and throw support behind the people that do that. A lot of people don't realize that the county mayor's responsibility to put the, intersection projects in, the Modernized Intersection Act, okay? And then there's other, programs that's, available for the county mayor. But I have 3 projects coming. One of them's been in place for like 21 to 23 years. And through 10 or 12 applications, I brought it back to life, and it'll soon be at the end of 182 Jenkinsville Jamestown Road. It's a 6-finger intersection right there at the plans in my office, that I've worked real hard on that. But my theory on that is, with appropriated money in Tennessee, West Tennessee is not growing as fast as Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee, and that's where that road infrastructure money is going. Now, I saw a big change when the bank committed to Lauderdale County the other day. I think they committed $104 million and $30 million to infrastructure around it. I picked up 2 projects, and they listed some more, and the state kind of holds them in. We've been at the RPO meetings, and so industry, as it comes in off of Blue Oval, is going to commit to the infrastructure, and I believe that's our road salvation. And then something else I got going, we have 7 water districts in our community. I'm very supportive of them. I think I've brought them up to a new level, but the DSCUD water district is a big concern of everybody in this county, and I have been supportive of them. Now we have IPG grant. We're holding the CBDG grant. We did our ARP work down there, which was quite a bit of a pipe replacement, but the IPG grant and moving forward with that, if it doesn't get blocked by local people, I've got several grants coming for the DSCUD water district, and it'll soon be out of trouble. Now, the government works slow, and then one more thing, and one of my biggest projects is tourism. I enacted Dyer County into tourism. We've got an enhancement grant out there right now. It's being evaluated all through Dyer County. The fairground ballpark is huge for me, but our tourism project creates and promotes quality of life programs in our community, but it also, and I've got a lot of innovation in this, and it's really moving forward fast, but it also promotes revenues without increasing taxes, and that's where we need to go, and thank y'all. Thank you, Bubba.
Thank you, sir.
Giving me an opportunity, and I'm sorry I had to speak so fast to fit that in.
Appreciate it. Is city mayor, is Pam, maybe here today? Okay. Again, we want to thank Slater Bar, who's our president, CEO, and his associates with him for making this possible here and getting our room ready, and this, our chamber is second to none across the state. And we want to thank, Ms. Fitz and Alicia Coffey. Thank you so much for your work. So, I know we've been a little long today, but there's been a lot of good information here today, so let's go out and make it a good day and be careful in this stuff. Thank you.